You know, some words just pull more weight than others. They're the real building blocks of our language, the ones we just can't communicate without. So today, we're going to put one of those powerhouse words, dependent, right under the microscope to see what makes it so important.
But that brings up a really big question, right? How do you even decide which words are essential? I mean, out of the hundreds of thousands of words in English, is there really a core list that matters most? It's a fascinating puzzle, and we're going to unpack it together.
And to figure that out, we're going to zoom in on just one word as our case study, dependent. It seems pretty simple on the surface, but as you're about to see, there's a whole lot more going on.
Okay, so first things first. Let's break it down into its most basic parts. Because to really understand a word's power, you have to see how it's actually built.
The way it's put together is surprisingly straightforward. You start with the root verb, depend, which just means to rely on something. Then you tack on the suffix ent, and that little ending is what magically transforms it into an adjective or a noun that describes that state of reliance.
And how do we actually say it? Well, the key here is all about the emphasis. It's pronounced dependent. You can hear how that stress falls right on the middle syllable, pen. Getting that right is pretty crucial for clear communication.
All right, so we've seen how it's constructed. Now let's dive into its first major role in our language, how it works as an adjective.
At its heart, whenever we use dependent as an adjective, we're always describing a relationship of need. It's all about relying on something, or someone, for support.
And the source material gives us this perfect, crystal clear example. Ocean divers are dependent on their oxygen masks for air. I mean, you really can't get much clearer than that. The reliance there is absolutely total.
But dependent isn't a one-trick pony. It actually wears more than one hat. It also has this whole other identity as a noun, and this is where things get even more specific. And this is where it gets really interesting, because as a noun, it doesn't just have one single meaning. Nope, the source shows us it actually splits into two different, very distinct uses.
So on one side, you've got the meaning we're all familiar with, a person, like a child, who relies on someone else for support. But on the other side, there's a much more technical grammatical definition. In linguistics, a dependent is just a word or phrase that modifies or adds information to the main part of a sentence.
Here's that first, more common meaning in action. This sentence just makes it perfectly clear. The children and the mother, they're the dependents because they rely on her for support. It's a term you'll see all the time on stuff like tax forms.
So, we've looked at its structure, its use as an adjective, and its two jobs as a noun. And all of this brings us right back to our big question. Why this word? What truly makes it so essential? Well, the answer lies in this really fascinating concept called basic English.
It all comes down to this number, 850. Back in the 1930s, a linguist proposed that this was pretty much the magic number of words you needed to express almost any idea in English. So what is it?
That's the total number of words on this super influential list called Basic English. It's a carefully selected vocabulary designed to be powerful enough for pretty much all of our everyday communication, and out of all the thousands and thousands of words in the language, dependent made the final cut. And the source material confirms it directly. Being on this really exclusive list elevates dependent from just being a useful word to being a truly foundational piece of the language. It's officially classified as essential.
And that's why this all matters. By looking so closely at just one simple word, we start to see the hidden logic of our language. Understanding these core words doesn't just build your vocabulary. It's like it gives you a key to understanding how communication itself is structured.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. Now that you know about this core list, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other simple words do we all depend on every single day, without ever stopping to think about just how essential they truly are?